Hello, welcome to another Becoming a Modern Man. We are playing Tribal Zoo, and we are running up against a Naya Zoo deck list, which is sort of a similar type of deck to our own, but without the tribal flames and a bit more sort of green-white focused. This is our opening hand. We have a bunch of burn spells and a Loam Lion. It's not ideal, but I think I decided to keep this. So our opponent is on the play. He leads off with a Horizon Canopy, which is obviously good for us because he's going to lose some life off of that. And plays in the Cottle, which is our first indication that we're on a similar style of deck. You lead off with Hallowed Fountain into Loam Lion, obviously trying to minimise the amount of life we lose from our dual lands. But with Sacred Foundry pumping up his Nicottle to a 3/3. Plays Quasali Pride Mage and gets to attack for 4 here. Draw into Plains. I play this incorrectly. I play Blood Crypt and then Lightning Helix in the Cottle, but obviously because we didn't get a Forest, our Loam Lion stays a 1/1. So we should have played the Wooded Foothills and got a Stomping Ground instead, and then we would have had the ability to attack for 2 here. So there's a bit of a misplay there. Then gets to attack us for 3 with the Pride Mage. And follows that up with a Knight of the Reliquary, but it's only a 3/3 as it stands. So we were well positioned to deal with that. We draw into Curd Ape as well, which is nice. So we're going to be able to bolt away the Knight and play this Curd Ape out and get in for 2. Got our opponent down to 12. This is 4th land into a Bloodbraid Elf. Fortunately, it hits a Scavenging Ooze, which isn't the most exciting for our opponent. And attacks us for 4. We're just going to take that because we don't really have a good block. So we go down to 5. So interesting position here. Let's see what we can draw. So we draw into a second Tribal Flames, which is perfect. It actually will. We have got all 5 different land types, so each of them is worth 5 damage, so we can actually just kill our opponent straight off. So I'll leave with the attack anyway, just to see what would have happened and see if our opponent would have going to look to block. No block and go down to 6, and we're just going to kill them off here. So yeah, we could have taken down to 1 had we not drawn that Tribal Flames, but then again, if we hadn't missed that couple of points of damage earlier in the match, our opponent would have been dead anyway, so I feel like that worked out fairly enough, and yeah, we managed to beat our opponent down just that little bit faster. Certainly if we hadn't drawn the Tribal Flames there and missed 2 points of damage, then we might have been in a slightly tricky situation here, but obviously the large amount of burn in our deck does give us quite a bit of reach, and that's kind of what came to save us here. Zoo decks, I think we're probably looking at bringing in Grim Lavamancer. Opponents seem to have quite a lot of 2 toughness creatures. He had the Pride Mage and the Scavenging Ooze, so probably bringing in the Grim Lavamancers, probably over Loam Lions, I guess, and then we could bring in Lingering Souls. Obviously flying over is quite good, and obviously gives us a lot of blockers, but I'm not entirely sold on that necessarily. I think we'd probably just bring in the Grim Lavamancers. Potentially bringing Lingering Souls is good, but I'm not entirely sure on how good it would be. Certainly better on the defensive, but I think we probably just want to stay aggressive. We can certainly outburn our opponent based on how that initial matchup went, so I think possibly keep things largely the same, but bring in the Grim Lavamancers so we can potentially pick off a few of their creatures. Okay, so we're back with game 2. This hand is kind of like our other hand, not great, but it's okay. I decided to keep it. It's possibly a bit of a risk, but we'll see how we go. Opponent does have a turn 1 play, which is good for us. and just leads off with a stomping ground. We're going to search up a stomping ground of our own. Just run out the Nakatl. Our Scavenging Ooze, which is fine. We can just pick that off here, and he's not going to gain any life out of it, so I think that works pretty well. Certainly, having a growing Scavenging Ooze is a bit of an issue for us, so happy to get that off the board. And we obviously get it to get in for 3 here. But as a Tarmogoyf to follow it up, which is... sorry. So what happened there is... so our opponent had a Tarmogoyf, it was a 3-4. The thing with Tarmogoyf, which you need to remember, is that the spell goes into the graveyard first, basically, and then the game checks what the toughness of Tarmogoyf is. So if you have a 2-3 Tarmogoyf and there's no instance in the graveyard, if you Lightning Bolt it, it will then become a 3-4, and it won't die, so it will just have 3 damage on it, but it will be a 3-4. So the same situation applies here. There weren't any sorceries in the graveyard, so our opponent had a 3-4 Tarmogoyf. If we'd Tribal Flames for only 4 damage, the Tarmogoyf would have lived as a 4-5 with 4 damage on it. So we search at the Blood Crypt, which gives us our 5th basic land type, and then we were able to Tribal Flames away the Tarmogoyf and get in for 3. Which also sets up next turn for our own Tarmogoyf quite nicely. There's a Lightning Helix for our Nakatl. Appears to be struggling on mana. Got a lot of cards in hand, but not the mana to play them at the moment. It would seem anyway. So here we're going to be able to cast a Tarmogoyf, and we're going to be able to keep it Borrow's Charm. So if our opponent does have a way of killing Tarmogoyf, we can make it indestructible. But it has our own Tarmogoyf, which is a little bit annoying. End of turn, I set up a land, just to thin out our deck. I'm going to attack here, so my plan here is to use Borrow's Charm to give Tarmogoyf double strike, and that kills off our opponent's Tarmogoyf. As I imagine our opponent will probably struggle to get rid of this Tarmogoyf. We managed to get rid of 2 of theirs at this point, which is pretty great, particularly given how big they were. And we're also going to be able to catch a Lingering Souls, which is pretty nice. So we've now got 6 power on the board. And our opponent concedes. Presumably his hand's filled with 3 drops, I guess, or maybe he just can't deal with his Tarmogoyf as it stands. Obviously being a very large creature, and our opponent doesn't appear to have access to sort of Tribal Flames, etc. He's also facing down at sort of a flying barrage with our Lingering Souls tokens. Obviously we were able to play a Loam Line and flashback Lingering Souls next turn, which put our opponent in a pretty rough state. So we managed to win this particular zoo face-off.